Today I'm going to be showing you how to crochet the diamond stitch in the round, just like this. And so I'm working with some size 4 yarn and a size G or 6 or 4 1/4 of a millimeter crochet hook. And so we're going to begin this project with either a flat circle or an oval, depending on how you want to use this. And you want to make sure that you are working in multiples of 4. So for me, I crocheted a flat circle up to 36 stitches. Once you've gotten your flat circle base, then I want you to chain 1 and place 1 single crochet in the back loop only of each stitch in your row, and this should equal your number of single crochet stitches from your last row of increasing. So for me, that will be 36 stitches. And at the end of the row, I'm going to skip my chain 1 and place a slip stitch in the top of my first single crochet stitch. So the pattern for this next row is going to be to chain 1, and then we're going to place 1 single crochet in each stitch in our row, starting with our next stitch and ending with our slip stitch at the end of the row. And at the end of your row, you're going to skip your chain 1 and then place a slip stitch in the top of your next stitch. And before we start our diamond stitch pattern, I did want to point out that you can always replace these 2 rows of single crochets with 1 row of double crochets in the back loop only. So for this row, we're going to be working in these front loops from that single crochet in the back loop only row, as well as the top portion of our row like we normally would work. And we're going to begin by locating our current front loop, which is just directly below your crochet hook. Once you've found your current front loop, then we're going to place a triple crochet in the next front loop over. So to do that, yarn over twice and then insert your crochet hook in that front loop. Then we're going to yarn over and pull up through the loop. So now we have 4 loops on our crochet hook, and we're just going to yarn over and drop 2 loops at a time until we complete our stitch. Once you have your triple crochet in place, go ahead and move it to the side, and we're going to place 1 single crochet in our next 3 stitches, working in the top row up here. So you can see this is the stitch that we've already worked, so just moving 1 over, and we're going to place these 3 single crochets. From here, I'm going to show you the repeatable part of our pattern. So we're going to begin by yarning over twice, and then we're going to reinsert our crochet hook in this front loop where we've already worked, so right here. And we're going to yarn over and pull up through our loop, and we have 4 loops again. We're going to yarn over and drop 2 loops at a time until we have 2 loops on our crochet hook. Once you have 2 loops on your crochet hook, you're going to yarn over once, and then you're going to skip 3 front loops. So this is the front loop where we just worked, so we're going to skip our next 3 front loops, and we're going to insert our crochet hook in this 4th front loop right here. We're going to yarn over and pull up through the loop, and then we're going to yarn over and drop 2 loops, and then yarn over and drop 3 loops. So now we've just crocheted our triple crochet bundle. From here, I want you to find the 3 stitches on your top row that sort of center around your current front loop. So for me, that's these 3. And we're just going to place 1 single crochet in each of those 3 stitches. And these 3 single crochets do not have to be perfectly aligned above your front loop. The most important thing is just that you get all 3 in. So from here, we're just going to repeat that process again. So I'm going to show it to you one more time. You're going to yarn over twice and then reinsert your crochet hook in this front loop where you just worked. Yarn over and pull up through the loop, then yarn over and drop 2 loops at a time until you have 2 loops on your crochet hook. Then we're going to yarn over once and skip 3 front loops and insert our crochet hook in that 4th front loop. Then we're going to yarn over and pull up through the loop, yarn over and drop 2 loops, and then yarn over and drop our 3 loops. Then we're going to center our 3 single crochets above our current front loop. Again, this does not need to be perfect. So that's going to be your pattern going all the way around your row. So go ahead and repeat that process, and I will meet back up with you at the end of the row to show you how to join with your very last peak. And at the end of our row, we're going to join the last front loop only where we worked with this first triple crochet. We're going to do that the same way we've been doing by yarning over twice and inserting our crochet hook in that front loop. Then we're going to yarn over and pull up through the loop, yarn over and drop 2 loops at a time until we have 2 loops on our crochet hook. Again, we're going to yarn over once, but this is where it's a little wonky. What we're going to do is insert our crochet hook up underneath the post that forms this first triple crochet. So not the top portion of the stitch, but right here underneath this stem. And then we're going to yarn over and drop all the loops on our crochet hook. From here, turn your work so that you can see your top row. And see this stitch that's between your working yarn and your crochet hook? You want to place a slip stitch here. And this does not have to be in this exact stitch, but this is just the easiest way I can show you which stitch I'm working in. So from here, we're going to place 2 rows of single crochets. So we're just going to chain 1 and place 1 single crochet back in that same stitch where we've already worked, and then we're just going to place 1 single crochet in each stitch in our row going all the way around. And so you should have your same number of stitches that you did before. So for me that's 36, and yours might be different depending on how big your circle is. And at the end of our row, we're going to skip our slip stitch and our chain 1, and we're going to slip stitch into our first single crochet. And we're just going to repeat that last row, chaining 1 and placing 1 single crochet in each stitch in our row, going all the way around. And keep in mind that you can always do your row of double crochets in place of these 2 rows of single crochets like we talked about earlier. And again, we're going to skip our slip stitch and our chain 1 and place a slip stitch in the top of our first single crochet. So for this next row, we're going to continue working our diamond stitch. And we're going to be working underneath the posts that form each of our peaks here, as well as the top portion of our stitch. So we're going to begin with this current peak directly below our crochet hook. So from here, we're going to yarn over twice and then insert our crochet hook up underneath these 2 posts that form our current peak. And we're going to yarn over and pull up through the posts. So we should have our 4 loops. Then we're going to yarn over and drop 2 loops at a time until we have 2 loops on our crochet hook. Once we have 2 loops, then we're going to yarn over once and then insert our crochet hook up underneath our next peak, yarn over, pull up through the peak, yarn over and drop 2 loops, and then yarn over and drop 3 loops. So basically, these peaks are going to take the place of these front loops only, and otherwise the pattern is basically the same. From here, working on the top edge of your latest row, we're going to center our 3 single crochets above our latest peak. And again, this does not need to be perfect, but as long as you get your 3 single crochets in, the pattern will probably look great. So don't get too caught up in that. So from here, we're just going to repeat our process. So we're going to yarn over twice. We're going to insert our crochet hook up underneath these 2 posts that form the peak that we just worked under. We're going to yarn over and pull up through the peak, and then yarn over and drop our 2 loops at a time until we have 2 loops on our crochet hook. We're going to yarn over once and then insert our crochet hook up underneath our next peak, yarning over and pulling up through the peak. Then we're going to yarn over and drop 2 loops and yarn over and drop our last 3 loops. Again, we're going to place our 3 single crochets in the top row, and we're just going to try to center these single crochets above our current peak. And so that is going to be your pattern going all the way around your row. Basically, we're just joining our peaks with new peaks. So go ahead and repeat this, and I will meet back up with you at the end of the row to show you how to join the last and first peak. So at the end of the row, you're just going to follow that very same pattern to join your last peak with your first peak that you've already worked under. And once you've completed your triple crochet bundle, then you want to place 1 single crochet in these stitches above your first peak right here. And so now your pattern should look something like this. So to end this row, we're going to place 1 slip stitch in our following stitch. From here, we're going to place our 2 rows of single crochets the same way we were doing it before. So we're going to chain 1 and then place 1 single crochet in each stitch in each of our rows. And at the end of our row, we're going to skip our slip stitch and our chain 1 and slip stitch into our first single crochet. So go ahead and crochet your 2 rows of single crochets, and I will meet back up with you at the end of those 2 rows. And I'm going to show you how to begin your diamond pattern one more time, but before I do that, I wanted to show you if you end up somewhere sort of off center from the top of your peak, don't hesitate to place slip stitches until you end up above your next peak. So for me, I just placed 1 slip stitch, and now I'm sort of centered above my peak. So once you're centered above your peak, then we're just going to repeat the last row of our diamond stitch. So we're going to yarn over twice and then work up underneath the 2 posts that form our current peak, yarn over and pull up through the peak, and then yarn over and drop 2 loops at a time until we have 2 loops on our crochet hook. From here, we're going to yarn over once and insert our crochet hook up underneath our next peak, yarn over and pull up through the peak, then yarn over and drop 2 loops, and then yarn over and drop our 3 loops. Then we're going to center our single crochet stitches above our current peak. And from here, you're just going to repeat those last 3 rows for as many rows as you would like to have your diamond stitch. And don't forget to check the links in the description if you're interested in my other stitch tutorials, and I will also link to some of my crochet patterns featuring this stitch so you can practice with some of those if you would like. Thank you so much for working with me, and I hope you have a wonderful, awesome day and enjoy crocheting with your new stitch.